Welcome back, Vol Nation. Week 5 is in the books now, Bob.
Yeah.
I think, nationally, the playoff picture, takes a little bit better shape every week.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of things in there this week that I like to see, particularly the Ole Miss loss, probably going to help us out down the road, probably. Conference race is shaping up. And, UT right now, obviously 4-0. We're a third of the way through the season. And I think we've had some players we're probably going to talk about today that's been a big part of that. With good seasons, maybe some of them a little surprised even, outperforming our expectations, which is hard to do since we have pretty high expectations.
Yeah, extremely, yeah.
Handful of guys who probably hasn't quite lived up to expectations yet.
Yeah.
Although I think a lot of them could move into the other category before the year is up. So let's jump into it, Bob. Let's look at some guys that are really responsible, been largely responsible for this fantastic start that we've jumped off to this year.
Yeah. And like you were saying, Tim, I think one of the things we want to talk about is here in a minute, is who some guys who maybe not look really great so far, but I could see them jumping out from this point forward. I mean, I could see like some breakouts. And I will also touch on some of these games. I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but some of the games that kind of affect things. I know you mentioned
the Ole Miss, Kentucky.
Ole Miss, Kentucky, but
there's some others.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's dive into the guys who kind of surprised us so far in the season. I guess I'll start off with Tim, a guy who I've been banging the drums for a while. He just ain't done it much until now. It's Tyree West.
Or at least hasn't done it much till the bowl game last year.
Right. Yeah, I've been on him for about 2 years now, just thinking he's quick and just moves differently than a guy that's 290 pounds. And I think he's finally showing that talent on the field.
Well, there's no doubt about that. This is a large man that plays with the burst of a small man.
Yeah.
I mean, he is. Look, everybody on our defensive line is dealing with one issue that's hurt their production, and that is, nobody's getting a lot of snaps. Nobody.
Yeah.
But that said, in his snaps, he's looking like an NFL guy. He's large.
Yeah.
He's quick. His explosion has popped off the game film over and over and over. He's put himself into the potential of leaving early for the draft. I'd really love to keep him.
Well, I hope not. But I mean, on the bright side, if he's good enough to go, that probably means he's had a heck of a
year. Yeah. Of all the problems you have, that's the problem that's good.
Yeah, that's kind of,
Another guy, Bob, I think that's going to jump off the page of me so far, and he has had some pretty eye-popping numbers on limited snaps, and that's Dante Thornton.
Yeah.
The biggest disappointment on the team last year, probably.
Right.
And, he's averaging like 4 miles a catch or something like that right now.
Yeah.
30-some yards.
Yeah, I think like 34 actually, but that's unreal.
Yes, I mean, and he's not had a lot of snaps on the field. I mean, he's had about half of what Brazel's had, but he has made the most of it. I mean, he's had multiple big, long catches. Kind of reminds you of, what was the receiver's name in 22 that would always have a touchdown at the beginning of the game, and then you wouldn't hear anything from him.
Who, Billis Jones?
No, that's 21.
Oh, okay.
It'll come. Oh, Bob, it's Javonte Payton. I think he was 21 year.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah. Would have that monster 70-yard catch. It seemed like to start the game off with. Then you wouldn't hear anything about him again. But Thornton has been having those plays at any part of the game so far. I staying at wide receiver, Bob. Somebody I think everybody loves and had expectations for, but he may have outperformed them just in one way, maybe not through. It's kind of weird. I won't say he's had a big year statistically, But Brew McCoy has jumped off the page.
He's looked like to me, uh, he's gotten quicker. I mean, normally you don't come back from injury quicker and faster, but it looked like he's maybe slimmed down a hair and maybe has improved his quickness. I don't know. To me, he looks like a guy I never thought he could make the NFL. I thought he just wasn't quite fast enough, quick enough for the NFL, but he may be now.
Well, I thought he could make the NFL probably on a roster.
Yeah.
Now I think he can get there and do something because he's dropped some weight. He's still strong.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see the 10-yard splits and the 40-yard dash times between last year and this year. He's a more explosive player for us now. Injury may have been a blessing in disguise long term for him.
May have. I'll tell you another guy. We'll flip over it, but same name. I had high expectations for him, but maybe it's unreal. Too high. But McCoy, the corner,
And Drummond.
yeah. I mean, he has looked like a true lockdown first round draft pick cornerback so far.
Yeah. And I still, I don't want to look for too much praise on our secondary because of who we played so far there.
Hello.
Who we played this year, they've not been challenged.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. McCoy looks like a first-round talent.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked great so far. I mean, couldn't ask for any better than what he's done so far, but he's looked good. Let's just go ahead and stick with the secondary. And I think some of these guys could change. I mean, they could dig into that disappointment area before the end of the season. I sure hope not. But Christian Harrison has surprised me. It ain't often a guy I think he's a junior here. I think he's third year, fourth year now here. They don't generally go from being a backup to doing something at this point in their career.
But you know what, Bob? On this Tennessee team, I would have to say the starter position is kind of the opposite of that.
Well, I mean, you had Theo Jackson.
Never done anything. Looked like a superstar.
That's true.
First year over there under this group, and then McDonald. I thought the first year he took that star spot, and jumped out from nowhere and looked good. Now I thought he had a disappointing year last year.
That star spot, I think there's a lot on them
Mm-hmm.
from a mental standpoint. And that may be a reason why Boone Carter's not took that spot so far. I mean, him being a true freshman, it's a lot on him, that spot.
Harrison has really played well, particularly in the Oklahoma game. Saw him making a lot of plays. He flashed.
While we're in that secondary town, quickly.
Your favorite player?
Yeah, a guy who I've been critical of, I'll still go on the books saying somebody's going to target him and try to abuse him at some point this season. It's Will Brooks. Because I don't think he's got the athletic ability to play at a high level.
But he's been pretty pleasant so far.
He knows where to be, and maybe with our pass rush, maybe with our corners, maybe having a guy who just knows what to do and where to be is
maybe what we need.
Is what you need. I mean, I'm not saying he's not. He just, runs a 540 or something.
No.
But,
Well, it's like this right here. Yourself, as I do, and everyone else on this thing. People are going to try to get him in matchups.
Yeah.
I mean, you see, first off, a white guy in the secondary. Then you start a walk-on in the secondary. Walk-on in the secondary.
Hey, who's this guy?
We're going to go after him.
Yeah. So, I mean, no joke.
He's going to have opportunities to either succeed or fail throughout this whole year.
Absolutely.
So far, he's on the plus side of that ledger, though. And well,
staying on the defensive side, man, our linebackers I don't know if you want to go individually, but our linebackers has played probably a little better than I thought. Carter seems to be getting better every single week. Man, there was one play in that Oklahoma game. right there at the goal line when they had what's his name? Is it right quarterback? That was his name. I can't think.
Oh, you're talking about the backup that would come in?
Yeah.
It escapes me right now. I'll think of it.
Right, but I may not read his name. I can't remember. But I thought for sure, pre-snap, I thought that, he's going to run it to the right side. We really didn't have nobody on the outside covering that. I mean, Carter ran him down and took him down for a loss. I was thinking, man, that's going to be an easy touchdown.
Well, preseason, Coach Inge, one thing he talked about when it comes to McCoy, there's not many times he had players that can run like that can.
I'm going to say one more thing about Carter, Tim. I could see, I was watching that Alabama-Georgia game last night. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But when I was watching Milroe run the ball, I kept thinking about Carter. Carter will be huge in that game when we play them. I could see Carter running him down and not letting him get outside on them runs like he did against Georgia last night.
Carter can move.
I think he'll be critical to that.
And Philly can move too.
He can.
I'll be honest. That's a large man that can motor as well.
Yeah, he's a big guy. I think Carter's going to be. You're going to hard turn the Carter, turning the corner on Carter. Jumping back, let's just stay on the defensive side, I guess. Defensive line.
Well, you can say everybody on that line.
Yeah,
it feels like.
Right, feels like Joshua Joseph. Even though we've been kind of saying expect a big year out of him, I think he's had that big year.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Simmons, another guy we've been kind of pumping up. He's showing out a lot. I mean, I actually think he got to start last game. I'm not sure if it's on paper or not. He was out there first snap.
Yeah, and made a play right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing really well. If he can stay healthy, he's gonna make him some money this year. I do believe.
I agree.
Offense. Some guy we haven't talked about yet on this kind of surprising area. One of the biggest surprises probably Kitzel one.
Yeah, and I don't know how much at this point you can say he was a surprise because people talked about him a lot coming out of fall camp. But sometimes you got to sit on the film, and he's performing at a high level. Fact is, I'd have to say that really about our tight end position all the way around.
Yeah.
Even though here in a minute we'll talk about another one.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a kind of an odd situation with several guys on that disappointing list. Because that disappointing list isn't really that disappointing.
No, not really.
To be honest about it. Anyone else, Bob, on
Max Gilbert, kicker.
Oh yeah,
he has looked really good so far, really solid. Only missing one kick. I think it's 53-yarder or something like that. So not bad. I'll take that at this point.
No, he's kicked tremendously.
Kicker.
If the only disappointment I have with Max Gilbert is that we've seen him too much.
Absolutely, I agree.
We got to score a little bit better in the red zone. And Bob, before we get off his list, there's some players that have performed high, but I'm not going to say make this list because we had super high expectations,
right?
Like a Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
For any of the listeners going to say, how can you not say Dylan? Well, because
we kind of thought,
everybody,
he's doing basically what we thought he would do.
Yeah. Super high expectations for him, and he's met every one of them so far. And I'm sure you would talk about Nico on that too. I mean, he's performed where we expected.
Pretty close, yeah. Pretty close.
He's looked great at times, and he's looked like a freshman at times.
Right.
Yeah. I think by the end of the year, he'll probably just be on that one side of the list once again.
I really think he'll get better almost weekly.
Yeah. And did we mention Deshaun Bishop? No.
I don't think we did.
Okay.
I don't think.
And he'd be in that kind of surprise. I mean, we had good expectations for him, but he's nailed that. He grabbed that running back spot.
Yeah, he's done great.
I mean, second team guy right now.
I felt good about him, but he's kind of exceeded my expectations to this point. He looks really well. I mean, I don't have the stats right in front of me, and I should have pulled this up before we started shooting, but I'm thinking he's averaging more than Sampson is at this point in the season.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. He's being extremely effective.
On the list of people that's, let's say, that has surprised as far as underperformed a little bit. We'll quickly go over those, but we'll also talk about those that we think.
There's going to be some guys that move from that list over to the other list.
Yeah, I think so. I've got 2 or 3 that I think, or actually over half this list, I think it's going to be.
And I think part of this list is people on there because they've kind of been injured some.
Yeah.
You know, or simply because they're in a very deep rotation and just haven't had their moment yet, but it's coming.
Well, one of those players that stuck out to me when you was talking about that just then, we've played a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets so far. So that means basically no slot guy. So one of the guys on our list here is Squirrel White. You know, he's not really done as much as I kind of thought he would at this point. But I think it's a lot of it, he's not gotten as many snaps because we've had 2 tight end sets in there.
Yeah, I mean, we pulled the slot guy in those situations, so he hasn't really had the opportunity. Another guy that don't have opportunity right now, because even though we're in the 12s, would be Ethan Davis.
Yeah.
Because when we go that 12 personnel, we're really looking at a couple of guys that can a little bit better in the blocking. And right now, he's the 3rd guy, probably as far as the ability to block.
Yeah.
I think he's getting better at that, though.
Right.
And he will have a big game soon.
Yeah, that's my thought. I think very soon, and I could definitely see it being either in this Arkansas or Florida game. I'm gonna go ahead and say it to him. I'm gonna go ahead and say either the next 2 games that Ethan Davis ends up with 2 touchdowns over the next 2 games.
Combined or in one single game?
Possibly in one game. I think he has a blowout. Just a
breakout
game. Yeah, breakout game. Yeah. I just see it. I think you'll see more of him when we go to 4-man front.
Well, when teams kind of start to play us a little bit in more normal sets, when they think they don't have to sell out to stop the run.
Yeah. You know, you was mentioning Thornton a few minutes ago, mentioned Brazel. I think Brazel's got like twice as many reps so far than Thornton. If I could see something changing from this point forward, I could see
the roles reversed.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm not saying for sure it happened, but it would not shock me at all if Thornton kind of goes back a little bit and Brazel ends up being that guy who shines more going forward. But we'll see on that. But another guy, Tim, Cam Selden. Injuries, it's kind of held him back so far.
Well, he has, and he was coming to the year even with the injuries as the number 2 running back, and now that's Deshaun Bishop. But would it surprise me to see Cam grab that back from Deshaun? Not at all.
Yeah.
Cam is going to really get in this rotation soon.
Yeah.
And I think sky's the limit for him anyway. So I expect a lot out of him going forward, but he's been a disappointment so far, as Mike Matthews at the wide receiver spot. He's been kind of banged up once again. The other guy's banged up, just like Cam has been. Could he be I know he's probably not 17. He might be. I'm not sure. But he won't be the 17-year-old wide receiver everyone's talking about.
Right. Well, so, you got Ryan Williams, Alabama. I think his name's Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State that's wiring it out.
2 guys who look as good as any freshman wide receivers we've seen in a long time.
Yes. So when I see that, then I think, man, Matthews was right there with them guys. Man, you never know. There could come a point in this season where Matthews just starts showing out.
He will. There will come a point in this season where Mike Matthews shows out and is the talk of the town. But so far, lack of opportunities. I mean
one catch he made, what game was that? He made that nice catch in the end zone.
Oh, yeah.
If it wasn't Oklahoma, I think.
Maybe Kent State. Second half.
Really nice.
Second
really
quarter.
Nice.
Yeah.
I tell you a guy, Tim, who mega pumped during the season, or preseason, James Pierce.
Well, everybody was, but
he's not done a whole lot, but
well,
I think it's.
Let me back up on that. I think he's been effective.
Right.
But he don't have this the stat numbers
Stat.
when it comes to
Yeah.
sacks,
Right. I agree with that. I agree
stuff
with
of that nature. Uh, so if you're not watching the games, you're probably a little disappointed. But when you're only getting 10 snaps in one game, 14 snaps on another, and even when you are starting to get snaps, you're not getting more than about 25.
Yeah.
And we
Keeps focusing on you too.
yeah. I mean, James Pierce is going to go into that other list, um, or at least into that maybe not exceeding expectations, but meeting expectations. He'll be in there soon.
Okay. I made my Ethan Davis
Prediction?
Here comes my James Pierce. James Pierce ends up with 3 sacks over the next 2 games.
All right, write
3
him
sacks
down,
over the next 2
and
games.
if he's wrong, tell him in the comments in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
All right.
But honestly, I can see that.
I could see him causing. I'm gonna go on the books this week. Right now, Tim, I got another one. Got another one. I'm feeling it. James Pierce causes a turnover this week at Arkansas.
Okay, boy.
Causes either a strip sack, causes a fumble, or hits the quarterback as they're throwing it and causes interception. That's put your mortgage down on that one, guys. No, don't do that.
Any more predictions, Nostradamus? I mean,
Yes, I'm gonna predict that I'm wrong on that. How's that?
you know what?
I
Well,
got both covered.
let me throw a prediction out to you.
All right.
In the next 2 games, Boo Carter's going to have an interception. He's in that list of so far
Okay,
people who's underperformed a little bit simply because our expectations were through the roof. Um, and then I think he got a little concussion early in the Oklahoma game.
Yeah. I think I could.
But Boo is just, he's due. Boo is due.
Boo is due. That's good. Rhyming. And you keep beat rhyming. I tell you a guy who I've been surprised by, and I think it's a lot of it's just due to rotation, but I don't think we've seen as much as T-Lander. I don't think Inge is rotating his linebackers as much as Brian John Murray did. This don't seem like I'm seeing T-Lander on the field as much.
I don't know. I've seen him out there quite a bit.
Maybe I'm wrong. Just don't see.
I think in the early couple of games, our defensive line was making so many tackles that our linebackers were kind of being forgotten. And I saw T-Lander out there a lot in those games. Now, I didn't see him as much in Oklahoma, but that was, could have been me.
Yeah. One guy that I don't think he don't really fit on this list, but he's a guy who I could see jumping out going forward. Jacoby Thomas. He's made that dude likes to hit, and I could see him either taking a starting spot or getting more reps. I got another prediction, Tim. Another prediction. Jacoby Thomas gets ejected for targeting in the next 3 games.
Unfortunately, I kind of agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
And it may not be even a good targeting call. It'll look and sound so hard that they'll throw the flag. They may wave it off later.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
yeah, he's making a move from being just kind of quiet early on in the season.
Yeah.
I think he's starting to make that move. Speaking of making a move, Bob, let's move over to some of the games this weekend and how it kind of affect Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think the big games everybody was watching the Bama-Georgia game last night.
Right. As far as affecting us, I'm not sure how much it really did. One of them had to lose, and unfortunately both couldn't. And I still think, I told somebody last night, Tim, I still think we match up better against Bama than we did Georgia. I think it was a matchup. I think Bama matches up better against Georgia than what we do. And I just think that's the way it's going to be. We'll see how that goes when it comes when we play them. But what did you take from that game, actually?
Well, I don't want to take 15 minutes to break the game down.
Right.
So I'm just kind of give you an overview of the game. I just thought it was obviously Georgia was not prepared. to start that game, and Bama, honestly, had the best single half of football they're going to have all year long,
Right.
in the first half last night. And I know coaches will tell these teams at halftime, play like it's 0-0,
Right.
but they did not. They come out of the second half, and they thought, well, the game's won. We just got to kill another hour and a half out here,
Yeah.
and we're going to go party.
Yeah, and I tell you what, too. I think personally, I think you got to give Georgia's coaching staff some credit. They made some
They
adjustments.
made adjustments, and Bama was like, why adjust anything?
Yeah.
You know,
They just stayed with the path, you know. The biggest game probably that affected Tennessee to me was that Ole Miss Kentucky game. Uh, yeah, I hate to root for Kentucky, but I was definitely in that one. Them beating Ole Miss definitely helps us there because Ole Miss don't really have a hard schedule at all.
they're going into the year, they look like at least 11-1 team, and
Yeah.
even though we might be a better team, let's say we finish 10-2.
Yeah.
Which at this point I don't think that's a lock. I think we could easily be better.
Yeah.
But if we're 10-2 and on the bubble of getting into the playoffs, if Ole Miss is 11-1, they're in front of us. Pure and
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
They needed a second loss through the season. This could have been that second loss.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
big,
agree.
big game.
They played some other teams. I expect they got Arkansas still, South Carolina, Oklahoma. Is it Georgia or Texas they play? I think
Neither.
neither.
I think they play Alabama, don't they?
Maybe. I was just looking that up earlier, but I can't remember if that's.
Well, you
I
keep
got it
looking,
here.
Bob, and I'm gonna.
I got
Oh,
it
you
pulled
got
up right here. They got South Carolina left, LSU, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia,
Georgia.
Florida, and Mississippi State, which is an in-state rival. So very possible that they could get another loss on that.
Yeah.
So that'd be big. Another game that I thought was of interest, you know, is the Texas Mississippi State. And the only thing I'm going to say about that is there's not a team in the NCAA right now through 4 or 5 games that has looked flawless.
No, there is not.
I mean, Bama has shown weakness. Georgia has shown weakness. Texas showed weakness yesterday. But, it's 14.
The final score looked decent,
Right.
but they were struggling against Mississippi State, who might be the worst team in the conference this year.
Yeah, maybe. So, I think they was favored by 35, and I thought they would cover that easily, and they didn't. So, yeah, there's several teams out there that has shown some glimpses of little weakness in the armor. It was good for Oklahoma winning. That was big for us. They had to come back and beat Auburn.
Yeah, because we'd like to see that Oklahoma game as a good win at the end of the year.
Yes.
And as beat up as they are right now, there's no guarantee they're going to have a great year. But they played Ole Miss, they played Missouri.
Yes.
It'd be big for us if they do get healthy, because that's a big thing for them. I mean, my God, they played yesterday without their top 5 wide receivers, some offensive linemen out. Even though we put up the numbers, what would we be without our top 5 receivers? I think we still got a couple of guys because we're super deep, but it sure wouldn't be the team we are right now.
And if they could get some Anderson back, they got to get Deion Burks back, get an offensive lineman or 2 back. That team could definitely be a lot better team at some point in the season. One other game I want to mention is the Arizona beat Utah. We don't want
2 teams from
Two
the Big
teams.
12
Yeah.
get in, 2 teams from ACC to get in.
Right. I do think 2 teams from ACC is going to get in. I think, me personally, it may not happen, but we'll see. Clemson, I could definitely see Clemson and Miami both getting in there. I really wish Miami had lost that game, Virginia Tech, and I wonder if the pollsters, if that will affect anything.
Oh, I think they could slide.
I mean, that was very controversial right there at the end of the game. I'm not sure.
He may or may not have made that catch. But if it takes you 10 minutes to try to figure out whether he made a catch or not, and then you overturn it, you didn't have irrefutable evidence that he did it.
I'm like,
It takes you that long.
I think what it was, Tim, you got a phone call from the ACC president.
Yeah,
Hey, let's take
commissioner.
that.
Yeah,
Hey, we need Miami to win this ball game. Hey, incomplete.
yeah. Because I mean, the thing with that is Miami's probably going to win that conference, so it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, but it does matter when it comes over maybe to getting that second team in, because let's say they lose for some reason in the conference championship game,
Yeah.
you don't want to have that second or third loss on your resume. So they made sure, and we know how that is because when SEC started their championship run in the late 2000s,
Yeah.
buddy, if you was in the national championship race, you was going to have to beat uh, the team, Bama or Georgia or LSU or whoever was in the championship race. You was going to beat them with the referees any week
Yes.
you played them. It was disgusting, the calls
Yeah.
that
It was.
the team in the race would get on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. But with that said, Tim, we got Arkansas pretty
on the
good
horizon.
coming up.
Yeah, they dropped one at A&M yesterday.
Barely. Yeah. That was a pretty good game right there. We'll talk more about that game. We've watched quite a bit of that. I'm gonna do a rewatch of that, take some notes. We'll get into that breakdown of Arkansas this week. But until then, Tim, I'm saying go Vols.
Go Big Orange.